President, and you did say a few words. It's difficult to say a few words on a child that you gave birth to and has watched it grow and now becoming something of a teenager and getting close to being an adult. But indeed, 2017 was a critical year for us as we, in the Caribbean, endured perhaps two of the most destructive weather events in our modern history. I speak of Hurricane Irma and Maria. We recall very well the extent of the damage that was done to Antigua and Barbuda, and little Barbuda in fact remained a rock in the sea after passage of Irma. And then we saw what happened to Dominica, 98% of the GDP destroyed. We saw also what happened to Bahamas. And then we went across to Puerto Rico, and 60% of the GDP of Puerto Rico was eviscerated by that mega climate event. And then, of course, to the United States, which is our neighbor. And we saw what happened over there in New Orleans. So we have seen during that period that in one single season, tourism's economic impact on key countries were significantly damaged, eroded, or in fact lost. The call that we made out of the first ever World Conference on Sustainable Tourism Development and Job Creation, hosted in Jamaica and Montego Bay. Through what we had then were the Montego Bay Declarations. The call was for three particular objectives. One was to establish, in response to these disruptions that we're having, a global tourism resilience and crisis management initiative. The second was to establish a policy framework for multi-destination tourism, which we're working on even today. And the third was to streamline and to position the small and medium enterprises as critical partners in the tourism value chain, but more importantly, to enable the building of capacity among them to benefit more from the returns of tourism. It was perceived at the time that some 80%, and today it still remains, 80% of the tourism experiences is provided by the small and medium enterprises, but only 20% of the returns from tourism went to this group. So there was an asymmetry there, and we had to balance that anomaly. And so the effort was made to make a new initiative, a drive towards this. And Jamaica asked the world to accept a single word included in the acronym of SME, and that word was T. So it became SMTE, Small and Medium Tourism Enterprises. And for that, we have in the Caribbean and certainly in Jamaica developed a three-pronged approach to empowering SMTEs, one of which is to train and develop the human capacity to think, to develop new and exciting products, innovative products. The second was to fund and finance them. And in Jamaica, we created a fund of $1 billion Jamaican dollars at the Exim Bank to be on lend to small and medium tourism enterprises at a rate which was the lowest rate in Jamaica. I wouldn't say the history, but at 4.5%, it was the lowest rate, and it offered an opportunity for small enterprises to borrow $25 million at a cap over a 5-year period for repayment. And then thirdly was marketing. And we established then the first artisan village, which is at the pier at Falmouth in Trelawney. So those are the three derivatives from that big initiative. But to the point of today's events, we established the first Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center at the University of the West Indies in 2018. And in establishing that, I humbly claim, along with the partner here, Professor Waller, he was then Dr. Waller, One of the things that we do in tourism, we create moments for expansion, development, mobility. So we pride ourselves in creating a professor from and we established that center then, and the first center to be established outside. And I just quickly tell you, for the benefit of of history and your own knowledge of why the center. In going beyond the weather events, we recognize that in the last 50 years there were 10 or so mega disruptions to tourism. We had SARS, the first SARS, H1N1, and then we had the 9/11 event that literally stopped flying to several parts. Then we had Ebola, and we had chikungunya here in the Caribbean. Then we had the terrorism, which hit much of the Middle East, and particularly Egypt, the result of which was that there was zero tourism happening in countries that were highly tourism dependent. And then we had tsunamis that hit Indonesia and the Pacific Rim, and also the Indian Ocean. And then, of course, we had the economic meltdown of 2008 to 10, which is regarded as, or was regarded as, the worst recession the world had seen in 80 years. And that caused what we call the right size, capsize, and downsizing of much of the tourism assets, particularly airlines, and air connectivity was significantly impacted. And then came, of course, the big one of COVID-19, which is regarded today as the most existential threat to Anthropocene Earth. And that's something that caused us to think hard. Next door to us is Haiti. Haiti had an earthquake nearly 20 years ago, 10 on the Richter scale. They have not recovered to date. And the consequence of not being able to recover is social disruptions, economic disruptions, political disruptions, and literally unmanageable states in the end. So we have to respond to it. And the establishment of the center then was a response to one, be able to predict disruptions. Secondly, to mitigate against these disruptions when they come. Thirdly, to manage disruptions when they arrive. And fourthly, to manage well, to manage quickly, to recover quickly. And then fifthly, to thrive. And thriving is really the challenge. Because as most of us have seen from COVID-19, 60% of the world is still not recovered. But thriving has become the issue. Where is the growth? Some few of us have talked about growth. And while we say that, I'm sure that Nicola will permit me to give you a little piece of news, that Jamaica hit the first 1 million visitors to the country yesterday, when we recorded 1,772,000 visitors. First time that ever we have made 1 million in less than 4